you ever walked into a room or a meeting, looked around and thought, you know what? One of these days, they're going to figure me out. Not because you've lied to get into that room, but because deep down, there's a part of you that's afraid that the things that you do bring to the table aren't the things that really matter, or at least aren't nearly as important as the things that you don't bring to the table. I'm Dr. Denham Slade, and building on my 30 years of experience, I've developed the new C.O.R.E personality model to help you authentically incorporate you into both your life and your relationships. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the imposter syndrome as a psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of one's ongoing success. Importantly, it doesn't always show up with a lack of talent. In fact, it often sits right next to your actual awesomeness. Here's how this actually looks. You're brought into a room, a meeting, a job, a team, or even a relationship because of something or some things that you naturally do really well. And people respond to it. They celebrate it. But then you notice what you're not, and you start to be afraid that they're going to start focusing on what you're not also. So what do? You start comparing yourself to the experts or the more technical voices in the room. And instead of valuing your own contribution, you start quietly waiting for the moment when someone says, wait a second, why are you even here? I have a client right now who's living this. He was hired by a high-level, highly technical, and lucrative company. Think engineers, developers, deep subject matter specialists. But that is not what he does. He's a connector. He's a culture builder. He's brilliant at managing relationships and making people feel seen and at rallying the troops. And this guy's boss knew that they needed that. They needed those things. And his boss knew that they needed them specifically to balance out some of the social gaps in their team. So they paid him a lot of money to be exactly who he is. But right now, he's doubting himself. He's feeling like he's not technical enough, that he doesn't know enough about the industry, and he actually even fears that he's not smart enough to be on the team. And there's almost a constant fear at the back of his mind that sooner or later he's going to get exposed, that somebody's going to say that he does not belong there. And this, despite the fact, not opinion, but the fact that the very reason he was hired is because he's solving a problem that nobody else can. But since his strengths don't look like theirs do, he's assuming that they aren't really that important. After all, anybody can bring some excitement and some fun and positive energy to a situation, right? That's nothing special. Anyone can take a few minutes to help someone feel seen and understood, right? All you have to do is take a few minutes to listen to what they have to say. Not a big deal. Wrong. It's actually a very big deal if you're not good at those things. I actually had a very similar experience in my own life when I decided to study human development and family science in my undergraduate degree 100 years ago. I was at the point where I had to decide what it was that I was going to major in. And that semester, I just happened to enroll in a lifespan development class just to meet one of the prereqs that I had remaining. And I could not believe how much I enjoyed the class. I had never taken any class up to that point where I had actually enjoyed the subject matter so much. I seriously could not believe that school or even learning could be so much fun. I had this concept that I had to study something meaningful. I think I had a belief that my education and subsequent career would be more fueled by the necessity to make a living and to provide the kind of lifestyle that I wanted than actually being able to enjoy what I might study. But because I enjoyed it so much, and because it came so naturally and easily to me, and because it was so much fun to learn about, I found my brain wanting to interpret what I was studying, or at least wanted to study, as fluffy and not quite as important or rigorous as majoring in something like chemistry or pre-law. My brain tried to minimize and devalue the field, and part of me struggled to feel legitimate. In other words, I was feeling a little bit like a professional fraud. And that is the framework for imposter syndrome, right? I want to point out something really important right here. This is a pattern that I've seen over and over again as I've worked with people, especially in people with a certain type of temperament. What my client's been feeling and what I was feeling all of those years ago isn't just insecurity or immaturity. It's not just weakness on our part. It's actually a very predictable part of the very things that make him a super valuable member of his team and of the organization. People like my client are charismatic. They're relational, they're energetic, they're creative. They light up a room, but all too often they also quietly wonder if they actually belong in the room. They're often the glue that holds the teams, the communities, and even our families together. But they fear that they're just the fun one, not the serious one, not the smart one, not the capable one. So they question themselves. They frequently over-apologize, and they start shrinking their gifts down to the size of their insecurities. This right here is classic O temperament. In my work with the C.O.R.E personality model, O stands for optimism, and it represents people wired for energy, people, and positive emotion. O's are natural connectors. They're social strategists. They can walk into a room and immediately sense the social vibe. Who needs what? Who's disengaged, and how to get things feeling good again. Sadly, because they're so good in the moment and often light on structure or technical depth, they also tend to undervalue their contribution, especially in high performance or highly structured environments. They tend to think that there's nothing really special about what they have to offer. I'm just being myself. That can't be enough. But as so many people who don't possess that same social ease often recognize, that is what makes them special. It is their genius. And the fact is that it's anything but easy. If you're secretly afraid that your personality is compensating for lack of real value, I want to reframe that for you. Your strengths are not a workaround. You are not in the room despite of your personality. You're in that room because of it. The key is learning to own your O, and then learning how to build support around your weak spots instead of trying to be everything at once. And here's a bit of common sense for you. You don't have to bring the same things to the table, the family, or the team, or whatever organization you're a part of, that other people are bringing. They are already contributing those things. What is missing without you is all of the things that they can't bring to the table nearly as effectively as you can. And those things, you make the difference between good and great, between sufficient and excellent. Being an imposter isn't being you. Being an imposter is actually what happens when you try to hide who you are and when you try to show up inauthentically as somebody else or like somebody else. If you want to learn more about your unique temperament, take the free C.O.R.E assessment today. It'll show you both your primary and your secondary core types that make up your personality. And it will help you see the real strengths that you've probably been downplaying your entire life. Please, stop waiting to be found out and start showing up as who you actually are. Like and subscribe for more C.O.R.E insights. And drop a comment if this felt a little too accurate.